Yud Daled, and we were speaking about how even though La'asad Lava is going to be Amshacha from Pnimius Atik, and now it's only a level of Chitzonius Atik, still in all, we are now the Shemayim Chadoshim, Ba'aretz Chadosh of La'asad Lava is dependent upon our avodah that we're doing now in the time of Golus. Why? Because the level of Pnimius Atik is Hashem's undiluted pleasure. Because Atik in general is a level of pleasure. Pnimius Atik is an essential pleasure. And since Yidden are also considered the land of desire, the land of Hashem's, the level of Hashem's innate pleasure, so therefore, even now, during the time of Golus, while being the Shamas embodied, which is also a precursor of what's going to be when Mashiach comes by Tchias HaMeisim, the ultimate reward is going to be the Neshamas and bodies. We are also having this level of the connection and to be able to bring about and to reach that level as well. So we left off on line 13 on page Yudal. So the Maimer continues in the Psukim over there in this week's Haftarah. This is also what it continues in the pasuk over there in the Haftarah. That says, like the new heavens and the new earth that I make, that we said that's referring to the higher level of the Gilui of Mashiach's times. So it says, so your children, your seed, and your name will stand. So the Rebbe says, also your seed and your name, that's referring to the general avodah these days. Yamid lefanai will stand before me. What's it mean, lefanai? Lefanai does not just mean in my presence, but lefanai, like many times in Chassidus, it says lefanai is from the word pnimius. Sheyisalu v'yisoindim lefanai b'chinas hapnimius mamish pnimius atik. It'll become elevated to be standing. That avodah that we did, the avodah of Zarachim Shimchim, I'll explain that in a moment. That avodah is elevated to be all the way lefanai to in the pnimius mamish pnimius atik. Shezoi aliyah chadosha shaloi be'erech. This is a totally new elevation, a totally new ascent, just like Shemayim Chadoshim, or it's Chadosha. It's completely new heaven, completely new earth. The same thing, the aliyah that's going to happen in our avodah is a completely incomparable type of aliyah. Even nimtza lamata by lamhaza, since it's down here in this world, to such a degree we can't even call it an ascent, because it's found down here below in this world. Now let me go back to what he said before. In the parentheses, he said, Zarachim v'shimchem is referring to the avodah, the general avodah these days. So in other Mamarim, the Rebbe quotes what it says in Torah Oyer. We mentioned at the beginning that the beginning of Torah Oyer and the end of Likutei Torah, both of them, this Noz Chalasim B'Seifan, talk about this pasuk. At the end of Likutei Torah in Shir HaShirim, and the beginning of Torah Oyer, the first Maimer in Torah Oyer is like Shamayim Kisiv Ad Ar Sadai Meraglo. It talks all about the heavens being the throne of the Eibishter and the earth being the footstool, and a lot of our Haftorah. And it's like the like the Rebbe says, this is the bookends of the entire Torah and the Torah, which is really one sefer. So in Torah, he explains what's the idea of Zarachim V'Shimchim. So he says mitzvahs are considered the idea of something that we plant. We've had this before in many Mamorim. That Habayim Yashrish Yankev, Yotzu Parach Yisrael, the Yidden plant is called planting of the mitzvahs in the earth, like it says, Ziru Lachem Tzedakah, sow and plant for tzedakah. Tzedakah is an idea of planting, and tzedakah is also a representative of all the mitzvahs. such a degree that stuff is just called mitzvah in Yerushalmi without any definition. So the whole idea of mitzvahs is the idea of zriya or erzarul tzaddik. Tzaddik is someone that does mitzvahs. He has a planted life. So zarachem, even though the simple meaning of the pasuk means your seed, your descendants, your children, it's referring to the avodah of mitzvahs, doing mitzvahs. Simchem, the Maimon in Torah explains, is related to what it says by Yas David Shem, that David made a name. Alter Rebbe in Geras HaKodesh talks about it. Man David Shema Kadisha brings from Zoyar, making the holy name of the Eibishter. But over there in Torah, the Alter Rebbe explains David HaMelech is, we know the level. He's the level of Kabbalah soil. He's the level of Bittul. So the Rebbe in other Amorim says openly, Shimchem goes on the avodah of Kabbalah's oil and Mesiras Nefesh and self-sacrifice. So therefore, Zarachem Mishimchem is the general avodah of Ayid. Torah mitzvahs out of accepting a yoke of heaven, out of self-sacrifice. So now the Rebbe goes on to say, in the Maimer over here that we're holding, last word on line 19 on page Yud Dalet. So he says that even though you cannot call it what the Yidden are going to be going up, the Zarachem V'Shimchem Yamod Lefonai, the avodah that the Yid does will go up all the way to the level of previous Atik. And we said it cannot be called Aliyah because really it's going to be down here, the level of previous Atik. Rather, it's in a way of Ratzui V'Shuv. It's back again. It's the give and take. It's the back and forth, but it's the give and take and back and forth, like we spoke about earlier. That when Mashiach comes, it's not going to be a running away from bad because there's no bad to run away from, but rather it's more like mati v'loy mati, like a pulse, like the circulatory system and the respiratory system, where there's the breathing in and breathing out, where there's the hamshacha coming down from above, then it like rises up to like rejuvenate and re-elevate and then come down more powerfully. So the Rebbe goes on to say in line 20, in the Chored al-Dvar, it also says over there in the pasuk, those that tremble for my word. And this idea of Chored al-Dvari is not just something that will take place when Mashiach comes. This is also present in Seder Ishtalshlus, Shabbat Lachar Tzimtzum, even after the Tzimtzum. That what happened after the Tzimtzum? After the Tzimtzum was created the idea of Maila Umat. Before the Tzimtzum, there was no above and below. Therefore, you cannot have Ratzi and Shuv, you cannot have Mati below Mati, because there's no above, there's no below, there's no rushing to anywhere, there's no coming from anywhere, there's no drawing down to anywhere. Rather, when there was the Tzimtzum addition created a whole empty space. Then there was a kav drawn down. Now this kav was brought down into the middle in such a way that the kav really becomes less and less as it goes down. It becomes less and less as it goes down. So there's a Maila Mata. The part of the kav that's connected to the Igul Agadol, to the Oiris of Shnat Tzimtzum, is much more powerful, much more intense divine light. And as it descends, it gets further and further away from the Igul Agadol, from the great Oirin Sof that was like moved to the side. The further it is, the less there's the revelation. That makes Maila Mata. The higher it's closer, more revelation. Lower, less revelation. And the bottom of that line, the way the setup is now, is Eina Negeya Betachtisei Shala Eagle. It doesn't touch the bottom of the eagle. It's only the top part of the line that touches the Eagle Hagadol, not the bottom. When Mashiach comes, it says the bottom of the Kav, where we're at, is also going to join again with the eagle. That's why you can have the Oirin Sof down here in our world. That's why you can have Pnimius Atik down here in our world. But up until then, when we're still under the limitations and definitions of Seder Ishtalshlus, there is that chain descent. There is the Milo Mata. Only the top of the kav, which is furthest from us, is touching the eagle. Because the bottom of the kav is not touching the eagle, only the top is. So it makes all the differences in above and below. With all, it makes the difference between above and below, like all the details about how it is descending and how it is going down and how far we are. And therefore, when we are in such a state of avodah, so the person is in such a state of avodah, he is constricted and limited, and still in all, even though he's constricted, limited in his avodah, despite that, we said chared al dvari, that he is trembling, his entire body, kol atzmosei tamarna, is trembling for the word of Hashem. If it is so, the way it is now, even how much more so Mazem moving by Mikolshkein from this understood, how much more so on top of the next page. How matter will be that I will be trembling, that he will be trembling for my word when Mashiach comes. When your seed and your name will stand before me, in the innermost level of Atik, that this, he says in the footnote, is a level that's even higher than the Kav V'chut, higher than say the Shtalshlus, higher than Oiden Sof, and therefore higher than the Kav in the Oiden Sof, higher than the Kav, and therefore it's understood the Bittul and the Chadid al Dvari will be of a much greater and much more powerful manner than it is now. Any questions before we go to the conclusion of the Mimer? Okay, now in the beginning of the Mimer, the title of the Mimer, we began with the last pasuk in the Haftorah. The concluding pasuk in the Haftorah is the nigla reason why we read this Haftorah on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, because the concluding pasuk of Haftorah speaks about what we'll do every single month. That every month we will go up to Yerushalayim, we'll go up to the base of Mikdash, not only every month, but every Shabbos. He says in Zion, line 4, page Tezvav, Messiah, and the Haftorah concludes, it'll be month by month and Shabbos by Shabbos. All flesh will come to bow down before me. Teach me Bible with the Torah, like explains the Torah. There are two levels in the ascent of the neshamas in the future to stand before him. We said before, that the neshamas will stand lefonai, kan yamid lefonai. We will go up and we will stand before and with Hashem in the level of Hashem's primis. So in the Torah, he says over there are two levels of, or two types of categories of aliyahs. What are the two categories of aliyahs? So he says like this. There are those that go up totally, that will stand over there always in that level of Lafonai, in the level of Primis Atik, in the level of higher than Seder Shtalshlos. Concerning this, it says, so your seed and your names will stand. And that is a constant level of Ali. Yeah, and then there's a level that they will not go up always to be in that level of Primis. That every month and every Shabbos they will also go up to bow down before me to the level of Primis. And the Rebbe says, here is not the place to go into the differences between the neshamas. Perhaps offhand we can liken it to what it says that there is, that Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya, that there's neshamas that a great tzaddikim, that they are, there are 120 there in Gan Eden Elyon, and there are lower neshamas, lower avodas, that their schar is in Gan Eden Atach. It says when Shabbos comes, so even the neshamas of Gan Eden Atachten go up to Gan Eden Elyon by Shabbos, or Chodsh also, if I remember correct. So in a similar vein, just like we find that aliyah and Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh from Gan Eden Atachten, Gan Eden Elyon, for the lower neshamas that are Gan Eden Atachten level of neshamas, so too when it comes la'asad lavai, there will be kol basar, all flesh. In other words, no distinction. Even those that are lower and cannot have the level of lefanai 24/7, or when it comes to Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, they will go up. So he says, but in line 12, the Rebbe continues, it says in the pasuk, Shara Chotzer HaPnimis Goymer Yisogr Sheishes Yimei HaMaisa Uv'Yom HaShabbos Yipaseach Uv'Yom HaChodesh Yipaseach. In Nevuas Yecheskel, where he describes the building and of the third base Hamikdash, it describes a certain eastern opening, a eastern gate that will be the eastern inner gate. It says that it will be closed 6 days of the week, but on Shabbos that gate is open, and on Rosh Chodesh that gate is open. So because those gates are open, that's also showing on a spiritual level, especially the Beis Hamikdash reflects spiritual levels above. So just like when a gate is open, people can walk in, and when it's closed, either you're in or you're out. You cannot enter. The same thing spiritually as well. There's a certain pnimius gate, the level of lefanai, the level of the innermost level, where everybody, kol basar, can enter over there when it comes Rosh Chodesh, when it comes Shabbos. So he says, Hine line 15. Since on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, the inner courtyard gate will be opened. Therefore, every Shabbos and every Rosh Chodesh, all flesh will come to bow down before me into the level of Pnimis. Like the one whose birthday concludes in his mimer. In other words, a mimer from Beis Ear dealing with the Rebbe Menashe's birthday. Concerning the reward of the world to come, that we will be deriving the enjoyment and our pleasure. The neshamas will be deriving from the ray of the Shekhinah. So we talk about that idea that the ray of the Shekhinah shines in Gan Eden, meaning in Pashtus, where he's talking about the Gan Eden, not in the physical world. In other words, not Chiyas HaMesim, but Gan Eden of Neshamas. He says, Shabbos ein nehanin miziv k'mashayim me'ashvua. Though it says in general, that what is the reward of Gan Eden? The reward of Gan Eden is a level of nehanin miziv ashchina, that we derive pleasure and benefit from the ray of the Shekhinah. Still in all, despite that, this ray is only during the week. But Elaksiv Bahu, concerning Shabbos, it says, Oz tisaneg al Havaya. Then you will derive pleasure upon Havaya, meaning upon means higher than Shem Yud Kei Vavke. Shem Yud Kei Vavke is the source of the Ziv, because the Yud Kei Vavke indicates the Seder Shtalshlos, Tzimtzum, Mispashtos, Namshachim, Mispashtos. That's the shapes of the letters of Yud Kei Vavke. Meaning that on Shabbos, Shu Inyan Ha'oras Ha'inega Atzmi, on Shabbos, it's a ray of the essential delight, thus nempment from Atzmus Alein, that is being taken from Hashem's very essence. V'lo Yaziv Mimenu B'lvad, and we're not getting just the ray of Hashem. Zeu Inyan Shalamayla Mikol Geder Shakabola Schar V'Tashlum. When we are taking and receiving from Hashem's very essence. So when we're talking about a ray, so then say that the person there's like a payment, there's a reward, It's a quid pro quo. I did this, I get that in return. But when you're dealing with Hashem's very essence, it is beyond saying that I earned it, like we were talking about the Yisrus Dala that's higher than the Yisrus Dala Sato, that is beyond anything I could reach. That's the level of Hashem's essence. That is what takes place during Shabbos. Because every single Shabbos he comes to the state of a true and complete bittul in a totally perfect manner. That's the idea of bowing down before me. Again, lefanai doesn't just mean in my presence, but lefanai means all the way to the level of the pnimius. And what do we say when we reach the pnimius? Li'ishtachavois, bowing down. That's a level of bittul. In other words, it's the ultimate bittul when the bittul is all the way to the level of the pnimius, to the level of Hashem's essence. Since then, the inner courtyard gate that's facing east will become opened. Therefore, all the neshamas will come to bow down to the pnimius, the pchinas oinega atzmi, in the level of the essential delight. Now, like the Rebbe always is not satisfied with just talking about things. That's going to be when Mashiach comes. The Rebbe always wants to find it also now. So the same thing over here, the Rebbe goes on and says, yeah, even now there's something me'enze, something similar to it. So the Rebbe says in the parentheses, the end of line 29, me'en v'dug mazeh ugam b'zman hazeh. And similar to this idea is also to be found these days. Now there's only, like we said, the revelation of the external level of Atik. So seemingly, we're not, the whole idea of L'shtakvis L'fonai, etc., the Shara Pnimis, the level of Pnimis, we're not connected to Pnimis. We only have to do with Chitzonius. Still a preparation for that time, that the inner courtyard gate will be opened. Top of the last page. Then all flesh will come to bow down to me, before me, and to my pnimius. By days of boy, the and through that we come afterwards to the state and situation that your seed and your name will stand. They will stand over there. Not just every single month and every single Shabbos, so even though before it's been a constant way, so even though before he made the distinction that some neshamas will have the level of they will go up only on a temporary basis every Chodsh, every Shabbos, and then there'll be other neshamas not that way, that their aliyah is constant. The Rebbe says that from the lower level, the Rebbe is always bringing us up to a higher level that will be in a constant state over there. The Rebbe concludes with a bracha, so too it will be for us and speedily. The true and complete redemption through Mashiach. Then will be the house that you will build me, like we referred to that pasuk earlier in that Torah, which is, what is that house that you will build me? The third base of Mikdash will be built speedily in our days. Like we say during Sfira, the idea that Rahman, right after the counting the Sfira, we say that we'll do this in the base of Mikdash that will be built speedily. And this becomes a close preparation, meaning not a far type of distant thing, but very close to all the matters that will occur after this. Now, what's the matters that we're talking about? Every single month and every single Shabbos, all flesh will come to bow down before me. Look at this medrash, like it's brought down the medrash. Then we will be oil regel through the clouds. In other words, the clouds the clouds come and carry and bring the Yidden to the Beis Hamikdash, because or else practically, how are we going to go for Shabbos to the Beis Hamikdash and then make it home for the week? So we're going to have, the clouds are going to take us. These days we don't have these questions. Our clouds are, airplanes. But the point is that the Geula will be in such a way that we'll be able to go up to Yerushalayim every single Shabbos. And where do we see this? So the Chazal bring a pasuk, like it says in the Navi, who are these that they will fly like a cloud and like doves to their dovecotes, to the place where they reside, until we come to the state of Shemaim Chadash and Varetz Chadash, to the new heavens and the new earth, that stand before me, along with your seed and with your names, meaning that literally your children and your name and everything will be over there before Mashiach, the Kar of Mamish, speedily in our days, V'Gula Mitzvah Shlema, the Mashiach came in a true and complete redemption through Mashiach. So I just wanted to mention what the Rebbe says in a different mimer about this idea that I started saying before, that this pasuk Yikasher Shemaim HaChadoshim Varetz HaChadosha is spoken about both in the mimer at the end of Likutei Torah and Shir Hashirim, and also in the beginning of Torah Or. And the Rebbe emphasized again that really Torah Or and Likutei Torah are really one sefer, and because of technical reasons, the printing stopped and they had to change the name, like it's brought down a letter in the back of there's a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe about all of this, the back of the Torah, why this occurred. So Torah and the Torah are really one sefer, and the beginning of it, in literally the first mimer of Torah begins with Shemaim Chadash and Varetz Chadosha, and the last mimer of the Likutei Torah, that's in Shir Hashirim, it speaks about the same topic of Shemaim Chadash and Varetz Chadosha. So therefore, there's a connection between the beginning and the end, because no, it's chilosim b'seifim it's chilosim, that the beginning is taken out in the end, and the end is taken out in the beginning. And we know always how the Rebbe by Siyumim always emphasized, and when he made a Siyum on a Masechta or Rambam, etc., which also we're coming up soon to the Siyum Rambam, that he always connected the conclusion with the beginning, because they're connected. It's not just, okay, we finished, now we say at the end of a Siyum Masechta, we say, Hadron Allah Masechtas, whatever, Hadron Allah Masechtas Shabbos. The word Hadron means we will return, we will come back to you. But the Rebbe's emphasis was not, we'll come back to you later, some other time we'll get back to you. But Hadron, we're right now returning to the beginning. It's not just that we're returning to the beginning because whatever, but the beginning and the end are always connected, the Rebbe showed. So the same thing over here, we actually see openly in the topics and in the pasuk that's being discussed in the beginning of Torah Or, and in the end of the Torah, like we said before, there are really two volumes of the same sefer. They're interconnected, and they both speak about the Shemaim Chadoshim, the Varetz Chadosha Ashani Ois. Any questions?